I always feel some of the wildest reviews on Steam and just comments in general always come from Serbia. So I think there's probably...
Yeah. See, when it was part of the Soviet Union, that's where all the gamers got sent. That's why. So that's the gamer gulag was there.
Damn. If only we had one now.
I know. I
feel like something that's interesting to me is that we don't treat like modern stereotypes like that are not really treated as like racist. But like maybe in the future it'll be like a hurtful stereotype to say like, so you think all Serbians have shitty posts? You know what I mean? It's just like a weird stereotype that develops.
What you're saying is that we're on the bleeding edge of racism.
That's right.
Anthropologists are going to be digging through our tweets and just being like, wow, gamers hated Italians.
That's true.
One of the funniest things that Devin Faraci does now, he has stopped most of his cringe posting, but he gets care mad about Italian stereotypes.
Oh my god. That is so cringe. Like, the whole thing about like making fun of Italians is like, especially as an American, is like they're just white people. He's making fun of white people. I mean, I'm sure there would be some problematic elements to this if it was the 18th century and you were just like making fun of all the poor people coming over on the boat. But now it's literally just there are no Italian people in the United States. There are just big fat Americans who like pasta.
Shitty Italian Americans, yeah.
Roasting Italians is basically the equivalent of Roman reparations.
That's true. That's true. And like actual like Italians from Italy, they deserve to be ridiculed. So,
oh my god, I'll never forgive you, your people, for what you did to Gaul.
I'm always saying that.
Unreasonably angry about like the invasion of the British Islands by the Romans.
I think it's very reasonable.
All right, that's enough. That's enough fucking evidence collected. Let me go and get my tea. We can start the podcast for real.
Cool.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Video Games Are the Worst Thing on Earth. I am your host, Alton. With me, as always, is Reese. Hello, Reese.
Hello, that's Dr. Reese. I'm the doctor of Cyberpunk.
Yeah. He's
I got a PhD in Cyberpunk from Oxford.
Damn.
It's weird that they let you make your own major there, but you pay them enough.
Exactly. They named a wing after you, Dr. Weiss ring wing of video game studies. And without further ado, our beloved co-host Kay of Kay and Skittles is with us. How you doing, Kay?
Hold on, I'm waiting for all my textures to load.
Oh damn! Is your monitor all like blurry? Is it like a PS1 game where you try to read the text and it's like all fucking just like a scribble?
Yeah, it looks like a PS1 game, which is weird. I could have sworn this game came out just this month.
Damn.
Have you thought about investing $3,000 into your computer? That's what you got to do.
Ooh, okay, all right. Yeah. I'm going to do that.
I'm
going to start selling my possessions.
And a couple organs. Come on, you got 2 kidneys. Yeah. You don't need both of them.
That's a good point.
Yeah. Alton's financial advice for upgrading your PC. 10,000 upvotes on r/gaming.
You could either have 2 kidneys or 1 kidney and ray tracing.
Exactly.
Oh my god, you're right. And this is perfect because Dr. Reese can do the procedure. He can take it out.
Well, yeah, 100%. And
actually, you're getting confused, Ray. That Dr. Reese can install ray tracing and augment your already existing organs with ray tracing.
Exactly. I replace your kidney with a GTX 490. I don't know what. I don't know what the numbers are.
They're doing like RTX now for ray tracing.
An RTX 200,000.
Yep.
In your kidney spot.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So, in case you haven't been able to guess, this is the fucking Herculean task we've set ourselves to this week is talking about Cyberpunk.
We're doing it.
I swear to God, every single day that went by without us talking about it, some new shit happened. It took us an hour just to put this episode together, let alone just talk to you about it. So we'll see if we can get everything we want to get done in a timely fashion.
I admit by the 30th or 40th thing that came out about Cyberpunk, I honestly had doubts that we would be able to tackle it. I was just like, are we just going to skip this and just move on to
it's too big.
to whatever a rage case of 2021 is going to come out? But no, we're going to do it. This has been a long time coming.
We totally skipped over the entire fiasco with The Last of Us Part 2 because honestly, I could not find the energy to give a shit. But this is very different because, first of all, me and Reese, one of our early episodes of Vigatoto, way the fuck back in July 12th, 2018, was about fucking Cyberpunk. And so we have like a 2-year history with this game. And that hype has just built and built and built. And to give like some context, there's like a whole bunch of like controversial shit and dumb things that CD Projekt Red did before release that sort of built up a lot of whatever the opposite of goodwill is from me and Reese, and then like a lot of other leftists online, and we're sort of put it in like the chud camp. So the pump was already primed for them to be like, yeah, this game's based. SJWs hate it. And the best thing has just been seeing that collapse. That sandcastle is just getting hit by a tidal wave of fucking shittiness. So Reese, give us the story so far of what happened to lead us up to this point.
Well, I would say the two big bullet points of things that they did that left a bad taste in my mouth is that they had that social media guy who was making transphobic jokes on the official account for the game, and that really kind of like sparked the culture war, and they did eventually fire him, which is not like what I personally, I'm not out to have people lose their jobs in general, but it's like that wasn't really the issue. Is that this whole culture war shit started, and I think it was further fueled by the kind of lurid transphobic ad that they were presenting, and they were just like, no, but it's in game, it makes sense because everybody is exploited, and that turned out to just be, I mean, I guess true in a sense, but just like the shallowest read possible. And then on top of that, they featured a cis cosplayer from that transphobic ad in their kind of like official run up to the game. So it created this kind of like meme culture war attitude hype behind the game, where it's like everybody in the world who sees that like strong jawed man saying yes, and they're just like, oh yeah, that guy was owned because that meme said yes. Like they were ready. They were ready for this game to just be amazing. And it really was amazing how it ended up, because I thought it was just going to be annoying, but probably fine. Even though I don't like The Witcher 3, it's well loved, and I think that there's interesting stuff about it. But it he just shit the bed just from wall to wall. So I don't know. That's the story so far. Is just this. They really built it up as this culture war type of thing, and they really fed the gamers with the transphobia and the general, just kind of like Elon Musk tier epicness.
Yeah, that is the most fucking cringe shit. I believe at some point from the main Vigatoto account, we posted something about them like interacting with Elon Musk, and it was just like flesh-rendingly cringe. Like the the skin on your skull just wanted to like pull away. And it has been very vindicating that something that has annoyed us so greatly at this point has now just fallen flat on its face. And Kay, would you like to say anything about it?
Sorry, I'm just sat here thinking about how, despite how thorough we're going to be, the second we stop recording, a new thing is going to happen.
Yeah.
There's going to be a new bombshell is going to drop. The game gives you fucking syphilis somehow.
Yeah. There was like, right up until the point we're recording, there's just been so many fucking things. and we'll get into them later. But first, I want to talk about what is probably the most fascinating thing that has happened with this release, and how quickly there's been like a whiplash, basically, of reaction, first against like people giving it low review scores, and then like against people giving it high review scores. So this shit kicked off like 13 or 12 days ago when GameSpot released their 7 out of 10 Cyberpunk review. And this was like 2 days before release, I'm pretty sure. So nobody but the reviewers had actually fucking played the game. And needless to say, gamers being gamers and the worst, they instantly reacted to hearing that this game that they had hyped up in their minds, that they had built up to in fucking impossible levels in their head, hearing somebody say that it wasn't actually all that great just drove them insane, just frothing at the mouth, to the point where the person who wrote this review, Callie Plagg, I think that's how you say her name, it started like getting like death threats, and people saying like, you should fire her, she's a bad reviewer. And it's so fucking funny because 10 days later, when everyone's had a chance to play it and the fucking public opinion has just completely fucking swung the other direction, looking back on like the initial reaction of gamers is the funniest fucking thing I have seen in ages.
I think it's worth pointing out that certainly this is not the fault of the reviewer at all, but GameSpot itself and the game media industry surrounding games was 100% part of the hype train. You know, there were a lot of real softball articles would just be like, Cyberpunk shaping up to be the greatest game ever, and it's just, you know, just for clicks, just for a part of the business, because that's
what people wanted to read. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Gamers got themselves into a treat frenzy. And just like, I feel like the last time I got like hyped for a game, I was probably like fucking 14 or 13. It's been fucking years because I got burned so badly, like in the Xbox era, that I never fucking did it again. And it's so bizarre to me that there are still people around, you know, not just children, who are doing this to themselves.
Yeah, and I would just add that Callie's review still gave it a 7.
Yeah.
Not a bad score. It just isn't a 10, which it needs to be a 10 or else their brains start leaking out of their fucking ears.
Mm-hmm. What were you saying before, Reese? I'm sorry I interrupted.
Oh, just that it's all part of the kind of gamer identity stuff that is a famous topic around here, and how it kind of just all feeds into each other. And I just was trying to think too, what was the last game that I was kind of hyped for? Like maybe Fallout 4?
Panty Puzzler 3.
Well, that lived up to the hype.
Oh, talk about a release. Oof. 10 out of 10. Had to get my room professionally cleaned. Yeah, continue. Sorry.
No, I mean, I think that's pretty much the end of the thought. Is just it's very sad to have it like this, because it's famous at this point how gullible you are if you give into the pre-order, into the hype, because they use that to exploit the gamers. You know, even from the most, if you care about consumerism, which we don't here,
right.
But you know, if you want the best game possible, being part of that hype train makes for worse games. They lets them put out shitty games with day one patches that fix maybe half of it. And that's what Cyberpunk was hoping to do here. And it didn't work.
Yeah, there's too much shit to fix. Like, after all the fucking crunch, after all the fucking delays, after all the fucking people posting that stupid fucking quote, a bad game is bad for, what was it? Like something like an unfinished game is bad forever or something like that, and a late game. I don't even remember. Some fucking Miyamoto quote.
I believe that was
Mario has a big dick. Is that
yeah, that was Confucius.
That was it. Oh, here it is. A delayed game is eventually good, but a rushed game is forever bad. And like I for real saw people posting that shit in reaction to like the delays, and I don't think any of us were fucking excited for this fucking bullshit regarding like the delays, because you know that means like every single delay they make is like that's 100% crunch time. Like
yeah.
Every single time they have to push back the deadline, it means that those developers are like working 16-hour days to try and get this leaky ship patched up before launch.
I mean, there just wasn't that much real information out about the game when they talked about the delays. So it was hard to look at it in a good light. Sometimes when games have like a lot of footage and kind of early access stuff you can look at, and they say they're going to delay to tie things up, you're like, okay, that makes sense. Mm-hmm. But here they had like just a shitload of bad looking Keanu Reeves commercials. Mm-hmm. They had a lot of good looking like gameplay preview stuff, but it was like suspiciously good looking.
Vertical slice.
And there was stuff in there that does not map to the game at all. I remember that first gameplay reveal where there's like wall running and all this kind of badass gunfight stuff, and that represents nothing compared to the gameplay you see now. So
yeah, I should clarify that none of us have actually played the game because it's not fucking finished and they're not getting our money.
Yeah, I'm not buying this.
Yeah, I mean, hats off. One thing I will say, thank you, CD Projekt Red, for being so staunchly anti-DRM. So,
for a reason unrelated to us not buying the game.
So in 2026, totally. I can get that Fit Girl repack and and live the good life, playing it for 2 hours and going like, this sucks.
Yeah. All right, so So now we've given like the overview. Like, I really want to get into this fucking GameSpot review because looking at it now, the comments made on it are so fucking funny. Like, if you sort by the highest rated, you will see a wall of cringe that you have like can hardly comprehend. All right, let's get into this. So these are all from like 12 days ago.
Oh, there's 2,400 comments.
Yeah. So I've compiled a few of the choice ones I saw while I was browsing through it. So this is Govington, worst reviewer in the business. Kirk replies, I know, right? I mean, you and I played it and loved it. And why would you give a game that we really want to be good a bad score? It's as if she played it and then didn't like it. Lol, what? Learn to reviews the game things, lady person. Sheesh. And then like Govington's like, no, I haven't played it, but I never claimed I had. I base my opinion of the reviewer on her previous reviews for both The Last of Us Part 2 and Days Gone. These are both games that I did play and completely disagree with the majority of the points she made in her reviews. It is not based on SJW political nonsense or because she is a woman, as you subtly suggested above. But the fact that I vehemently disagree with her previously, based on the fact that her tastes are so obviously not up to line with mine, I do not give any weight to her opinion. Fuck.
Wow. Yeah. We've got a discerning customer.
Very similar, in fact, to the way I view yours. In closing, go huff a pair of bicycle shorts. Love Govington. So, that's
I don't know why he had to bring in the slander of bicycle shorts huffing into this. That seems totally unnecessary.
I was a noble king.
And ad hominem.
Yeah. All right. So this is another one of my favorite fucking reviews or comments on this. From Billy Boner. Why in the hell did they let Kaylee review this? If Kaylee is offended, it must be great. Well, that's Billy Boner's take on the situation.
Thank you, Billy Boner.
Yeah, thank you, Billy Boner, for your commentary. Seba says, Kaylee, are you offended? No, now go back to your Pokemon and Animal Crossing. You got, and then Dr. Waldy replies, you guys are, is he related to you, Reese?
Yeah, all doctors are related.
Oh, yeah.
That's true. We're all cousins.
Ew.
When you become a doctor, you join the cousinhood.
Dr. Waldy says, you guys are pathetic. Go read the other 110 out of 10 reviews if you don't like critical opinions. And Viper says, more like SJW, pathetic opinions with plenty of Kotaku fake wokeness.
Oh,
fuck.
So I'm loving that there's already this push, again, for a game that no one has played at this point.
Yeah, this is 12 days ago. This is like before the game had been released to the public. These are people responding to somebody who actually did fucking play the game. And then none of them have fucking played it, and these are their takes, all right?
They're trying to make it into like a culture war thing, as if the left-wing position is to not like Cyberpunk.
Exactly. No, it fucking was. That's what they were fucking doing the whole time, this build-up of them, like, people, like, criticizing CDPR for doing shitty things, like the transphobia, the fucking tasteless jokes. They've been building this up as, like, a culture war, and this is, like, their like penultimate, we're making this about politics and not about the game, ironically.
Well, there was this whole discourse building up too about like with the nature of cyberpunk, and that's what we did the episode about way back in 2018. And I think a lot of people correctly sussed out that there wasn't actually a lot of depth to the cyberpunk they were presenting, and at this point it's just kind of like a fairly like cut and dry like retro future aesthetic, which is fine, but they were amping it up so high that it just became being like, don't keep politics out of my video games, you know, except for the transphobic part.
To cap off just the review of comments on this article, here's another take from Siba. Offended? Hell yes. Your review just made me buy another copy.
Which the perfect comment, because it's just like the best way to own the libs is to make a purchasing decision, which is why it's just like such a great scam until, you know, they fuck it up. And I think a lot of people are mad. A lot of other companies are mad at CD Projekt Red because they kind of gave the game away a little bit. And they saw how, you know, cynical a lot of kind of like, not, you know, game devs, it's hard to make a game. I'm not blaming them, but the management above, you know, does a lot of shitty things to pump up the sales.
Right.
And they use gamers as kind of like they
use them as a weapon.
The footmen to kind of make making a purchasing decision synonymous with you know, being who they are, which is, you know, a great scam.
Well, they use them as a fucking weapon against journalists, to be honest with you. Like, if this is a big fucking game, it's been marketed to shit, there's a bunch of people already hyped for it, already invested for it, those people will fucking harass journalists who are like, actually, this game is kind of shitty. Like, sight unseen, they will fucking do that shit, especially if it's a woman. Like, the publishers aren't going to do anything to stop that. They love that shit.
And it's, I don't know, it just, as much as I do laugh at these people and have a lot of disdain for them, it also makes me so sad, because it's like you're just being used as a marketing tool basically by these companies and being whipped up into a fucking rage over every little thing for a video game. Like, that's dark, man.
Yeah. So that was like 12 days ago, right? Here's from r/cyberpunk game 7 days ago. I think this was like at the top of the page for a little while. Here's a post for y'all. Everyone talks shit about her, but I'm starting to agree with Kelly Plagg, from user Mario Vienna. GameSpot's review was super controversial, but now it makes sense, and in fact, I agree with Kelly Plagg. Night City is superficial, everything is there, but you can't interact with, and yes, so much of it is superficial. Set dressing is 100% accurate, and as she said, what shines are the quests and the characters. Hate to say it, but Night City, which was supposed to be the best open world out there, is subpar at best. And it's just like, this was the top of the Reddit for a while. In a space of 5 days, like, public opinion went from "I will kill you if you say this game is bad" to okay, yeah. Like, there are multiple threads. If you search her name on like the Cyberpunk game, there's like at least 4 threads saying we should apologize to Kelly Plagg.
Wow.
And it's just like, I love this. I absolutely love this, because And I want this to happen more. I want there to be just insanely overhyped games that get released and then immediately 180 on public opinion. I want it to heighten the contradictions and disillusion everyone who makes gaming their identity. Because it's like, as far as I can remember, this is the first time that this has happened like this. This is the first time that a game has reached that sort of culture war crescendo of being defended by chud gamers as being like, yeah, SJWs don't like it, and then immediately having that smashed to pieces by reality.
That's such a good point, because that's what really makes this different from something like Fallout 76, which of course was a big budget, disappointing game. There was none of that sort of like attempting to make it a culture war thing.
Yeah.
I think what you said about heightening the contradictions is a really good point, because it's hard to imagine that at least a small number of these people won't have maybe looked at themselves in the mirror after finally playing this game and seeing that it's fucking broken dog shit and thought, how many people did I like send a death threat to for saying this? Like, is this what I want to be doing with my life? Like, at least one fucking person has to have had that moment, you know? And that's something.
If you look into that Reddit thread, like the people who are still trashing Callie are people with like Haru is best girl, is like the people on the culture war side of Cyberpunk are like persona perverts. You know, one guy named I'm Very Nasty. Like, like those are your comrades in arms if you're on that side of the culture war.
Hentai Addict 69.
I mean, listen.
Hey, listen, I never. That's my account. I never said anything mean about Callie.
Vicious takedown of Kelly Plague's review by Lolly Lover 420.
Okay. Next
slide. Get out of here.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, this is kind of a fucking stupid comparison. I'll admit that up front. But it really, in a way, like this sort of violently wrenching from one direction to another of like the public discourse kind of reminds me of what happened about like how like left-leaning people felt about the Democratic Party after they completely fucked over Bernie Sanders. It's like these events like these, it's just like such rapid changes, like the heightening of contradiction, I feel like are sort of necessary to actually, like, in the case of Bernie, radicalize people to be actually on the left. And in the case of this, maybe not be a dipshit chud defending corporations. You know, I'm hoping that's what this means.
I mean, corporations keep demonstrating that they are just like cynical, profit-seeking bodies who don't give a shit about even like the integrity of their product. So if you're wrapping up your identity in that product, you're going to get fucked over a lot. And like, you know, people can get really stuck in their ways if they're committed to a worldview. But, you know, eventually if you show somebody that water is wet, they will eventually conclude, oh, water is wet, you know?
Yeah. And I don't think that there's something to be said about like the effect of like when prophecy fails, when like a, you know, whatever, something you said would happen doesn't come true. I don't know if that applies in a case where you are literally having to play a video game. Like, I mean, maybe there are still people out there who are just like, yes, I love it when my save file goes over 8 megabytes and I lose all my progress. That's good to me. I'm owning the lips. I'm owning. Are you owned yet? Please be owned. You know.
I love the save file thing because it's a fuck up that requires you to invest a certain amount of time into it before it affects you. It's perfect. It's beautiful.
It's not even on this first part episode list, but like I just have to bring it up there in perfect context.
Yeah.
So, you know, you brought up how this compares to like the release of Fallout 76 and how that didn't really have like the same culture war associated with it. So when it came out and was shitty, it was just sort of like everyone was dunking on it. you know.
Yeah,
Whereas
everyone
in
just got
this-
to make fun of Bethesda.
Yeah, whereas this has been like so much more of a process than that ever was, where like people have gotten invested into it as like a culture war issue before it ever came out.
The hype bubble had already been popped with Fallout 4, I would say also.
Yeah.
Even though that game like wasn't nightmarish, I would say the Fallout fandom kind of turned on it pretty hard. So they were like hoping 76 was good, but when it was bad, it was just another Bethesda game for us all to laugh at.
Yeah, the expectations were tempered.
Yeah, whereas this one was like, they made The Witcher 3 the greatest video game of all time. And there's nothing since like The Witcher 3 and like its expansions. I think maybe Gwent, I guess.
There's been a couple of like licensed Witcher games. There was that like it was some kind of like more standard RPG that they came out to. It was like Thronebreaker or something like that.
I played Thronebreaker. I liked that. That was good.
Was that made
but that
by
wasn't-
CDPR?
No, it was licensed.
Yeah.
Okay. So basically nothing since Witcher 3. So one of the most critically acclaimed and beloved games of all time, straight to Cyberpunk 2077, and one of the most disastrous releases of all time. And I think that I hope that shakes another couple 100,000 people out of the hype train forever. Like no more like fucking pre-orders, no more buying into hype. Just look at the reviews the day it comes out, and get the ones that you fucking thought you hated before, who were critical of games. You know,
I mean, it's so easy as well to not buy into the hype. Like you can look forward to it. That's one thing. You hope it's good. I hope most video games are good. All you have to do is just like wait a day after it comes out and see what it's actually like.
Wait 1 week. 1 week. That's all it takes. But so many people I know, like so many of our friends on like Steam, I look on my Steam list, there are 2 people playing Cyberpunk 2077 right now. Like, and on the day of release, just a wall of people playing it.
Yeah, four people on my list playing it. Probably some overlap.
Yeah. And it's like they can't keep getting away with this.
But that's the thing. That's my worry, is that it will be like when Prophecy fails, because what do people have to put their faith into? I mean, you and I know that there are better things, but in kind of like what you're raised,
like President
taught,
G.
I mean, this is something that's like very safe to like, 100 years ago, you would be a rabid Lutheran or something, but today you are a cyberpunkian. And
oh my God, you are a gamer. This is Martin Luther posting his like 97 theses of gaming.
Martin Luther posting an apology letter on the church.
Yeah,
the dear gamers.
I'm sorry. Lutheranism was overrated. But I think we should like do a seance to summon the spirit of Martin Luther King and make him apologize for creating Calvinism.
Let's do it. That'll be a premium.
Yeah, that's a premium episode.
But yeah, just to say that I would not be surprised if they can get this in a somewhat working state. They give everybody a hat, give everybody a Cybertruck. I bet a lot of these people will just be like, well, it's hard making a video game, and they're on my side of the culture war. I'll just go back into it. So yeah, but it is good. To me, I just feel the best thing that there is to feel in this world, which is confirmation bias. It's terrible, exactly. and I thought it was going to be terrible. And it feels great. It's just so good.
Yeah, I have to say that is definitely something to consider, is that we were definitely hoping for this game to fail horribly. And so when it fell flat on its face, just the sweet sensation of vindication.
All right, what's next?
I wish it was good. Like I kind of was like, I might like to play that, but as we got closer to release, there was this looming certainty that this was not going to work out.
I mean, the signs were all there, like the constant fucking delays, the delays after the game went gold. That is very abnormal. You don't delay a game that's gone gold, which basically means that they've already like started printing the disc.
Yeah, one day there's going to be a documentary about the production process of this game because they were working on it for a long fucking time.
Yeah, like 8 years or something crazy like that.
Yeah, you can make a game in 8 years. So what the fuck did they do? Like, how many times did they just like throw out what they had because someone in charge was like, nah, you got to have the titty physics are all wrong.
They had to redesign all the submarines in the game to include screen doors.
I honestly, I'm sympathetic that, you know, hearing what it's like to make a video game, it sounds like it's the hardest thing to do. You know, most of the video games that we love and we say are well made still seem to be tied together with duct tape and chicken wire.
Right.
But it's the hype that they fostered, you know, that specifically had this transphobic tinge, that specifically had this, you know, chud culture war aspect to it to drive sales. And then it seems like for all of that, it's a game that at best, even when everything is fixed, everything I see from it seems like very disparate. There's no vision. There's nothing particularly like new and nuanced, and like maybe this shouldn't have been based off the Cyberpunk RPG, because that seems like it was a very flat piece of inspiration and they had nothing to add to it. And so it's like, but it's their only game. They had so much invested into it, so it just had to come out eventually, and they just didn't even know what to do. And I'm not surprised that they just eventually just shit it out, and they were like, "Oh, this sucks. We've just been sitting with it for so long, we can't even tell anymore."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm sure they knew. Like, although apparently, we're gonna get into this in our next set of topics, but like, apparently they barely did any testing of the previous gen versions of the game, which just seems insane to me. They did not focus enough resources on the PS4 and Xbox One versions, which we will get into eventually.
I've got to wonder if they even realized before it was too late that they were going to be releasing on those consoles, because it sure seems like it just doesn't work on them. Like, that doesn't bode well. And I just wanted to like state explicitly, I've got nothing but sympathy for the actual workers in this company. It sounds like they went through hell to produce something that could, you know, be damaging to their reputation. Like, oh, you were like involved in coding this game that doesn't work. Like, that's not good for anyone, because, you know, somebody above their pay grade decided, no, this has to come out now, even though it's simply not done, you know?
And specifically the shitty way that the management structured their crunch, where they said they only had to do like a couple hours overtime, but there was the Metacritic bonuses, and there was like a big culture of, if you go home early, you're fucking over your friends and coworkers to go see your family, to go spend Christmas with them or whatever. Like, and that I think is such a toxic environment, because you have these official statements that they make where like, oh, we're not crunching. And so whenever you say in any way, shape, or form that maybe it's not so great to be a dev for CD Projekt Red, you have gamers freaking out, just being like, no, they said in this statement that they don't crunch them, and I believe the company.
Well, it's like they said that years ago that they were going to try and fix like the thing is, Witcher 3, for as acclaimed as it is, was developed using some pretty egregious like crunch policies. Like, from my understanding is that they just like they just treated their workers like they were disposable. They would like completely burn out like their Q&A testers, fire them all, and just get new ones.
Yeah, and their excuse was just like, well, you know, we have a different work culture here than in North America or whatever.
It's like, no, you don't. Yeah. The problem is that this is like a universal thing from the game dev industry. It's just like, it's fucked.
I was listening to the like head writer for Supergiant on a stream earlier today, Greg something.
Kasavin?
Yeah, exactly. And he seems lovely. He was talking about somebody had brought up crunch, and he was talking about how a big part of why Supergiant doesn't do that and like enforces people using all their vacation days and stuff like that was because he said, I want to work with these same people for a long time. We're growing together as a studio. To me, it speaks to such a fundamentally different attitude where it's like, no, I don't want to burn these fucking people out and have them, you know, dropping out and having to get new people in because this is my team, you know?
Right.
Compared to CD Projekt Red, where it does seem like you're just treated like something to be fucking used up and thrown out. Like
you just get like
I don't know.
You just like they just like a meat grinder. Like a lot of AAA devs I've heard are like that, where they just expect you to work like so fucking much and crunch all the time and just like have no respect for your personal life. And then like as soon as you get tired of it, you know, they either like lay you off, which are constant in the video game industry, or you just decide enough's enough and you quit and you go and do some other software job that actually treats you like a regular exploited capitalist worker and not like a fucking sausage.
Yeah. One thing I know for sure is even if I made half as much, I would fucking much sooner work somewhere like Supergiant than any of these AAA studios. It's disgusting.
It really does just eat up and shit out like the best and brightest of the video game industry. Like, I can't imagine, like, there are probably thousands and thousands of extremely talented developers who just decided to quit, you know, making games, even though they were really good at it, because it sounds like hell.
Yeah.
And it's like, you can't blame them, because it's like, how, you know, being creative is like one thing, but actually like not dying of stress, that's a little bit more important.
Exactly. And two, those skills, you can get better treatment and better pay once you have those skills in the software industry, usually, is my understanding anyways.
Yeah.
So why slave away at a game like Cyberpunk when you can just work on boring tax software on something and you get to see your kids once in a while?
Why lock yourself in a dungeon for 16 hours a day to create the League of Legends MMO when you could spend time with your family and make more money?
Even at the most cynical level, even if you are a heartless piece of shit like many gamers are, you should be able to see that crunch makes worse games. Yeah. Like, this is the clearest evidence. Because when you're working,
I don't know, Reese. I actually think I've got a little someone who might disagree with you. Q. George Brassard, the co-founder of 3D Realms and the creator of Duke Nukem 3D.
Oh boy.
And the person partially responsible for Duke Nukem Forever. Here he is on Twitter, quote tweeting an article from Kotaku that says games made under crunch conditions don't deserve Best Direction awards. And he says, "Oh, fuck off. You have no idea what it takes to ship world-beating AAA games, and you take the word of disgruntled ex-employees versus the hundreds that are happy there. Also, comparing a 20-man indie to a 300-person studio is stupid. Biggest award shows of the years. Millions watch and celebrate gaming. Kotaku, hold my beer. I can have some well-timed opinions on the overall winner and the best game. We can milk for some clicks and outrage." And then he's just doing like, "Are you mad? Dang, apologies. I accidentally muted this thread like 7 hours ago. I was enjoying the muting / blocking all the toxic drive-by people with anime avatars. Back on the job now, so I promise to get to you soon." Man. Just like, what a fucking moron.
Well, in his defense...
This is cuck behavior.
In his defense, Duke Nukem Forever scored better than Cyberpunk 2077.
And the very clarify, that's the user reviews, right?
Is it? I thought I'm looking for, even with our organization.
Nah, even with the
There's just too
organization,
much.
there was so fucking much. I think you put it in the PS4 one.
The Metacritic score until recently was like the critic score was still 90.
Oh no, this is a score.
Yeah.
This is from. I think this is the IGN review.
Yeah, the IGN review,
Gave it
the most like softball, softball, like give you a good review website, enthusiast bullshit, scored it lower than Duke Nukem Forever.
That is so fucking funny.
My God, you scored less than the fucking game with like the parody Olsen twins.
Are we gonna come back to Metacritic scores later? Is that one of the segments?
We can talk about it now if you want.
Yeah, let's start talking about some of the more of the review stuff.
Let's go. I'm going on Metacritic now.
Because the Metacritic score used to be 90. It's dropped down to 87 after an announcement from CD Projekt Red that they would not be tying everyone's bonuses to getting a 90 on Metacritic, which they were going to do before the release was a disaster.
Yeah.
And at the time they did that, they actually had a 90 on Metacritic. And I think that it's, first of all, this indicates that the kind of infamous thing that Bethesda did to Obsidian with New Vegas, where they tied their bonuses to Metacritic scores, may be quite a common practice. This isn't a very transparent industry, so it's hard to be sure how often this happens, but it clearly still happens.
I've listened to, on the Giant Bomb podcast, Jeff Gerstmann talk about the moral dilemma of having Giant Bomb on Metacritic, because he says that it's a fairly regular practice, even if it isn't really spoken of. It's like in your NDAs or whatever. And even if it's not explicitly spelled out in your contract, there is the understanding in the industry that Metacritic drives sales. And if you get a shitty Metacritic score, that's going to reflect poorly on the workers. I think that is pretty solidly the industry standard, even if it's not always spelled out.
Certainly. And it's not hard to see how that can lead to a pressure to give games a good score. And I think that is shown by the fact that this game that is broken had a fucking 90 up until recently and now has an 87. It seems pretty clear, and this goes for plenty of other games, that they're being given very generous scores, because if you're doing a fucking review for, I don't know, IGN or GameSpot or something, you know that a bad review could be fucking over hundreds or even thousands of staff.
100%.
That's not an environment where you can actually have honest criticism or transparency about what is wrong with a game. How are you going to throw a whole fucking studio's worth of workers under the bus and potentially lose your job because your boss might be scared of getting like fucking blacklisted and not getting review copies anymore? You can't publish a fucking really bad review about this huge game, you know? So it gets a 90 despite not working.
Yeah.
It's insane. It's crazy.
To complicate it further, is the standard with reviews is that you usually get a buggy version of it, even games that end up not having a lot of problems. And there's a document that says, we understand that there are texture issues on the buildings here, here, and here, and here's how we've dealt with them. And so it's kind of practice to be like, well, if there's a lot of issues with the bugs, I'll mention it. But it's very difficult for reviewers to kind of see how much the bugs are going to impact it in the end, because there's always a day one patch that's 30 gigs and fixes all this stuff. And so and if you mention it in your review, and once again you get all the gamers being like, I didn't have any problems with that. I had a perfect gameplay experience, Callie. And
yeah. And the comments saying like, "Oh, I fucking this game is fucking amazing. No, I haven't played it yet. Why?" Yeah,
exactly. And so And my understanding is like most game writers hate reviews. They're like, what is a review anyways? This is the least interesting way to write about games, but it's what's most demanded. So why not just fucking give the game an 8? At least, even if it's a shitty game, because you're in it in the moment. You review a lot of games, so it's like it's kind of got this streamlined process where you're just like, well, they threw in the graphics. It's got an 8. Who cares? You're not getting paid enough to get death threats.
No, definitely not.
Looking at the Metacritic, there are so many 100% like listed as like in the critic reviews, and it's nuts. It's like there's 100 from like, for example, from like GameOver.gr. It's not an easy task, but Cyberpunk 2077 managed to do justice to the hype level it created. And then immediately after that, they say, yes, we would like a more extended main campaign, and of course, we cannot ignore the large number of bugs. Then why did you give it 100?
Yeah.
Fuck me.
Not even a point off for bugs.
Yeah.
And that's not including the PS4 and Xbox One reviews, which were so shitty they did absolutely just destroy the game.
Yeah. Let's actually, related to how like the games press has been like effectively, I don't know if manipulated is the right word, but they definitely were like prepped to give Cyberpunk 2077 like the best like review possible. There's this article from VentureBeat called CD Projekt Red Risks the Reputations of Others to Insulate Cyberpunk 2077. And I think it might be interesting to read because it seems like I haven't read all of it, but it's there's this part in it that says it feels like CD Projekt Red used reviewers to help fool consumers. This is from Jeff Grubb. So I'll go ahead and get us started with the reading. I'll skip over the first part because that just gives it the background we've already talked about. CD Projekt Red designed the Cyberpunk 2077 review process with the purpose of getting the best possible reviews while minimizing the media's opportunities to inform their audiences about the flaws. The media is complicit in this and must take its share of the blame, but CDPR also minimized the opportunity for reviewers to understand what they were agreeing to take part in. As someone who reviewed Cyberpunk 2077, I should have been more skeptical. It's crucial to always examine how the marketing machine is trying to use the media. But throughout the process, CD Projekt Red represented Cyberpunk like any other normal review without ever disclosing that the experience we were getting on PC could feel materially different from the experiences on consoles. Let me recap the events of the review to illustrate what I mean. Before Thanksgiving, CDPR External's PR firm reached out to inform the media that it was getting code. Media could go to a website to request a code for PS4, Xbox, Stadia, or PC. It's a simple process that has worked well in the past, so going into the long holiday weekend, most people felt confident that they would be getting review code for their platform of choice. And I remember taking this as a good sign for the state of the game. CDPR seemed confident by offering up codes to so many people for all platforms. But a few days later, CD Projekt Red's internal PR began reaching out to a much smaller pool of the media, and this time the deal is, you get a code if you plan to review on PC. This isn't abnormal. Cyberpunk 2077's review keys were in high demand, so it seemed like CDPR was trying to keep things quiet, so it wouldn't upset the hundreds of people who would still have to wait for a code. But taken with everything else, this also now feels like part of the manipulation, especially because my understanding is that very few codes ever went to people who requested them through the PR website. So, essentially, you could request a review code for the PS4, but the ones that they actually actively sent out were all PC, being like the most complete and functioning version of the game.
So a lot of people who are meant to be reviewing it would have had no way of even knowing that on consoles it was just going to be broken.
Yeah, exactly. And like with hindsight, another part later in the article, with hindsight, CDPR's actions and the review process seem manipulative to me. Point 1, the company never showed Cyberpunk running on PlayStation 4 or Xbox One prior to release. Point 2, it said explicitly that the game runs surprisingly well on those systems, with a hyperlink to them saying that. Through its external PR, it suggested that console codes were ready to go prior to release. Point 4, it then quietly only let reviewers experience the game on PC. Point 5, even on PC, however, it wouldn't let critics post footage of the bugs and crashes until 2 days after the game nailed its initial reviews. Point 6, during this process, CDPR never communicated to the audience or with the media that the PS4, Xbox One versions could run significantly worse.
First of all, I love the idea that they said it ran surprisingly well on consoles.
Yeah.
That implies that they're surprised that you could even turn the game on.
That is so, like, in retrospect, that is so fucking funny. But I don't know if I want to read through all of it, but it is insane to me. Because, like, later on, it goes down into, like, Patrick Klebeck's tweets about, like, people are getting this response back from CD Projekt Red after emailing their help address for refunds. It doesn't tell you to request a refund from Sony anymore. You're supposed to wait. And the reason for that is that fucking let's get into this now. PS4 and Xbox One stopped fucking processing refunds.
Yeah.
Like, it stopped processing refunds, and PlayStation has just straight up delisted the version of the game for PS4.
Even Fallout 76 didn't get delisted, man.
Yeah, I know, man.
Ooh.
The only game that got delisted was Arkham Origins, with WG Games delisting it itself, being like, "Okay, we're sorry, we're going to fix the game."
Yeah, because the PC port was like unplayably bad.
Yeah, and I think something that we should point out here is I don't have any particular article to link to it, but I have read that CD Projekt Red leaned on kind of like a kind of good faith practice in the industry with the Xbox One and PS4 versions of the game, where you say that, okay, to expedite things, can we produce so many discs? And then we'll fix the problems in the first version, and we'll give you a document saying here what we need to fix. CD Projekt Red fucking lied to Sony and Xbox, allegedly, that they'll fix these issues, that these are problems that wouldn't be there day one. And because they have this relationship with a lot of different companies, where they say, okay, Call of Duty day one, you'll be able to shoot whatever. You just got to download the patch. Or worst case scenario, they can send in and swap out the discs for the right version or whatever if you don't have internet connection. And CD Projekt Red was just like, yeah, we're going to use that good faith industry and we're just going to release shitty versions of the console games, which is amazing and kind of part of its pattern of behavior, where it took all of its good faith from the gamers and from the industry, and just trying to use that to extract as much value out of possible for the fact that this game just was not up to snuff at all.
Yeah. We're getting a little bit close to time here for the part one of our Cyberpunk mega episode, and I kind of wanted to close out with this article written by Jason Schreier on Bloomberg Spit called "Cyberpunk Game Maker Faces Hostile Staff After Failed Launch." So, Reese, would you care to read this for us?
Rebellion is in the air at Polish video game publisher CD Projekt SA after the company's highly anticipated and thrice delayed latest title was released to scathing reviews about glitches.
I hate talking about stuff like Rebellion and riots at fucking game companies, because I'm like, are we talking about Rebellion and Riot Games? Just why do they keep fucking calling their video game called the Violence Incorporated?
Here at Murder the President Games, we are going to come out with an amazing moment. We're going to revitalize the genre.
Here at Joe Biden's home address games. Fuck.
Okay. Frustrated and angry staff fired questions at the board during an internal video meeting Thursday that opened with management apologizing for Cyberpunk 2077's disastrous launch, according to two people who were present. It was a fitting atmosphere for a company whose slogan, plastered on posters all around its Warsaw office, is, "We are rebels."
Oh my god.
Developers asked blunt questions about the company's reputation, the game's unrealistic deadlines, and the relentless overtime in the months and years leading up to the game's December 10 release. The meeting took place before Sony's shocking announcement that it was pulling Cyberpunk from the PlayStation Store and will offer full refunds to any customer who requests one, which Sony never does. They're famous for being really tight about refunds. During the staff meeting, CD Projekt's directors said they had come to an arrangement with Sony, but didn't offer specifics. In a Twitter post on Friday, the company said that following our discussion with PlayStation, a decision was made to temporarily suspend digital distribution of the game.
Damn.
A CD Projekt spokeswoman said the company wouldn't comment. Blah, blah, blah. I'm skipping ahead a little. During Cyberpunk 2077's development, staff endured multiple periods of extensive overtime, including mandatory 6-day weeks to finish the game, Bloomberg has reported. When asked about this crunch time in the Q&A, the director said they had plans to improve the production practices in the future, but didn't elaborate.
I love that. This is like, we plan to improve things. How? No comment. Just in the future sometime. In 2077, we will improve our practices.
All right.
Wow, man.
A little bit more to go. One employee asked the board why it had said in January that the game was complete and playable when that wasn't true, in which the board answered that it would take responsibility. Another developer asked whether CD Projekt Red's directors felt it was hypocritical to make a game about corporate exploitation while expecting their employees to work overtime. The response was vague and non-committal.
Being in that meeting sounds fucking incredible.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Many industry observers have wondered why Cyberpunk 2077, which was first announced in 2012 and was delayed 3 times in 2020, still appears to be unfinished. Several current and former staff who worked on the game have said the same thing. The game's deadlines set by the board of directors were always unrealistic. It was clear to many of the developers that they needed more time.
No shit.
Yeah. So on that bombshell, we will see you in part 2 of the Cyberpunk 2077 Mega-sode. Bye.
Later, chummer.
Yeah.
I got kicked out of the Shadowrun game because I was too fucking lame. They threw away my character sheet. They threw me out in the goddamn street. I never figured out how to cyber deck. It told me that I was full of dread. I had to get on the telecom to get picked up by my mom. I got kicked out of Shadowrun. I got kicked out of Shadowrun. I got kicked out of Shadowrun. I got kicked out of Shadowrun.